The Power Factor Show.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Sponsored by Hodgton, the Gunpowder People.
Welcome to Power Factor. I'm Rick.
I'm Larry.
I'm Phil.
And here we are again at the USPSA Christmas party. Are we allowed to call it the Christmas party as opposed to the holiday party? And we've got USPSA President Phil Strader here, special guest. Last year, Dave Thomas was sitting in that desk, but we got Phil this year. So we're just going to kind of wing it here. We all agreed that we don't have a script or anything, as usual. So we're just going to kind of talk about USPSA, what's been going on, and what's going to be going on. So how long have you been in office now?
I was elected effective January 1st of this year.
Yeah. So, and is it all you expected it would be? Or?
It's been a challenge, to say the least.
Did you have some insights, though? You kind of knew what you're getting into?
I think I did. I'd spent a little time on the board. Had some heart-to-hearts with Mike. I actually spoke to Mike about this job in 2005. We were in Ecuador at the World Shoot, and it was I was approached. Not officially, but I was approached about the possibility of taking the job. And at the time, I had a full-time job as a police officer. And
you were in Washington, right?
I was in Washington, D.C. area.
Washington, yeah.
Right. And, I owned a very large business. I literally, my plate was overfilled. And I wasn't as excited about the position at that point, but I think it put a bug in my ear at the time. And, a lot of stuff happened. I got myself in a position where I thought that I could probably do the job pretty well, and so I took a run at Area 4 director and got elected. Spent a little bit of time on the board of directors, and literally months after getting elected Area 4, I put my petition in to run for president. I would have liked to have had some more time on the board to kind of get some more experience. I'm definitely I'm doing okay, I think, at the job. I've gotten a lot of good feedback, but there are a lot of places where I'm stumbling a bit because I'm not familiar with the job. And but Mike is actually a really good friend of mine. He and I were friends the whole time we ran against each other. There was no bad blood. In fact, I call Mike all the time for advice, and
that's good.
He always offers it to me, and
whether you want it or not.
Whether I want it or not.
Yeah.
I'm usually asking for it, but. There's a lot of people out there who are trying to help me become or stay successful.
Right.
And so far, it's been good. I've been taking a very direct involvement with the Nationals.
Okay. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of your list of...
That is part of the job description.
Well, yeah. That's really
sort of like
the main...
The top, right?
Yeah, that's the main description. Is that's the main... One of the main responsibilities of the president is to run the national championship. That's his baby.
Right.
And I have some experience in directing matches. I've had some experience in getting sponsorship for matches. I've done a little bit of everything. So I thought maybe I could throw my hat in the ring and try it. And it's been very difficult. Weird things happened this year. I lost a couple of people as match directors because of health reasons or because of work issues. So this year I was literally for the entire Handgun Nationals, I was a one-man show. I was the only match director there when there's usually two or three to kind of pick up where everyone left off. So I'd never taken out that much garbage in my life. I'm sure there's a lot of pictures floating around the internet of me falling into the dumpster and taking out garbage. So
that's funny.
It's not bad. I don't mind it. I mean, I actually enjoy doing it. It's the easiest part of my job, to be honest with you. But being someone who shoots a lot and who has shot a lot, it was a very tough pill to swallow.
Now, do you feel like
do
you have any kind of sense of like a conflict of interest being a competitor and the president?
Well, no, I don't know if it's a conflict of interest. In fact, I think it helps with the job in that I can relate better to the shooters. I'm not an administrator just coming in and being a figurehead. I'm actually someone who's been on the ground, who's done everything from the grassroots competitor to match director. And I'll always be a shooter at heart. I'll never be an administrator. If that happens, I'll have to find something else to do.
Right.
but I'll always have that shooter-based mentality. The match will always be about the competitors. It'll never be about the sponsors or anything like that. It'll always be about the shooter first, and that's kind of my background in it. And now that's not to say that I got to shoot again. I can't not shoot again. Next year I'm just going to have to find some extra help. So if anyone's out there is listening and needs,
send your application.
Yeah, send your app, and I'll take some help on the match direction side, or at least helping me with the water and the ice and the trash. At least. But I've got to shoot. I can't. Watching the Steel Challenge and the Nationals, which I haven't missed a National since '97.
You actually sat out Nationals because of your responsibilities as a match director.
Yeah, I sat the Nationals out, both Nationals, the Steel Challenge. The only Nationals match that I shot this year was the three-gun Nationals, which I shot with the staff and then worked the match the next 3 days, and the single stack Nationals, which is basically run by Passive Park. They do everything for us. So I loved it. I really miss it. I do miss shooting, I must admit. But if it comes into the situation that I'm stuck doing the legwork again, I won't shoot. I mean, I've done everything, like I said, and now I feel like it's time to kind of give back to the sport. So I don't really mind doing it, but I do miss the shooting part.
Sure,
of it.
yeah.
So that's tough. Really tough.
Now, are you still on you were living like in Virginia or somewhere on the East Coast?
Well, I lived in Virginia for a while. I was a police officer there for 14 years on the East Coast. A few years in Virginia, about 10 years in D.C., and moved to Tulsa to help as one of the directors for the U.S. Shooting Academy. Did a 2-year stint there, and after that, I just kind of freelance, taught a little bit here and there for about a year and a half. I just taught people how to shoot, traveled all over the place, and it was nice, but it didn't pay very well. I found myself looking for a lot of stuff to do.
I'm sure the travel expenses ate into.
Oh man, and the health insurance. You're self-employed, so no one's paying your health insurance. So everything I made went to health insurance. It was crazy, and I had a new baby. I had a brand new baby when I wasn't employed, and about a year and a half ago, Remington Defense actually called out of the blue and said, "Hey, we've got a position open." And I had already had my application, or I had my petition, and I was already running for president. So I went from being unemployed and looking for stuff to do and trying to get classes filled and teach to having too many jobs and too much stuff to do. And now I'm traveling all the time, and I don't teach anymore because it's just no time. I just don't have the time to do it. And anyone this is a part-time paid position that I have, but in no way is it part-time. It is and when Mike told me, he goes, if they paid me for what I really did, I'd be getting paid a lot more. And I never believed him until I got the job. And now wow, he was serious. It's a lot. But now I've got a lot to do. I'm very, very busy and travel a lot. But that's good. I mean, it's okay though. After spending about a year and a half of not having enough to do and struggling to get by, you don't complain as much.
Right.
So what is the structure of the Nationals this year? I heard it's changed up a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you have all the dates in your head. I saw them on the whiteboard out there. But.
I do. I've been saying for years that I've always been saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had a Nationals dedicated just to production? Production's one of the fastest growing divisions locally and club-wise, and we're seeing the absolute success of the single stack Nationals, although we're not seeing as much of a success at the club level because a lot of people don't want to shoot the single stack pistol at the regular matches. But here's a match that's designed for single stacks, and so it's filling up. So I thought, well, at our club match, we have more production shooters than anyone, and that's a lot of clubs. That's the way it is.
We've been seeing that too.
So I thought, well, why not have a dedicated production Nationals? Plus, it's a division that most people can relate with.
Sure.
They connect with that because it's a standard carry type pistol. So that was my big. That's my big project for next year, for 2013, is to have a dedicated production Nationals. Another step that I took, it's not as grand, but I think it still should have been done a while ago, but it was to attach a dedicated revolver Nationals to the single stack. Because when we were shooting the single stack for several years, I'd be shooting and I'd look over at Rob and I'd say, wouldn't it be neat if they took a target out of each one of these arrays and we shot revolvers here?
Revolver match.
Yeah, and that would be so neat. And after a while, I said, I'm going to do it. Yeah, make it 6-shot neutral.
Yeah.
And so, I talked to the people at Passive Park about it, and they were 100% on board, and so now that's going to happen. We're going to have our dedicated revolver nationals. It'll be limited to about 100 to 110 shooters, and I am very confident it's going to fill up. And that could lead to something more. They're interested in extending the match to a week if it becomes to the point where they can't bring enough people in. So we might make the match longer. Big move for 2013 was trying to come up with a range to hold the Nationals, because this was our last year in Las Vegas for a 5-year contract. And so I was invited to come shoot the Area 1 Championship. There was a match that I'd heard there were 450 people registered for,
right?
Which I couldn't believe.
That's the first one I missed.
Yeah,
in a long time since I
tell
started.
you missed a good one. You really missed a good match.
Yeah, it's too far to travel for me, but yeah.
Well, I got bad news for you in 2013.
I know. I know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I always work the area match as a CRO.
Yeah.
That's where I get my brass for the year.
Nice.
I'm starting to run low now.
Well, that's an opportunity.
So is it going to be in Utah again next year?
It's going to be in St. George next year. Okay. It's going to be a dedicated limited match, just limited by itself. And then it'll be back-to-back with the Open/L10.
You're talking about the Nationals, not the Area 1?
The Nationals. The Area 1 will actually be in Utah as well.
Sure.
But this will be later on in the year in September, late September. I think 23rd to the 29th, if the dates.
So it's only a few months later they're going to do the Nationals in the same place.
Yeah, and it's a great range. They've got an amazing sized parking lot, and they're going to extend it out to that open section off to the left. So I was hesitant at first, because I thought, well, they might have a nice range, but they're not going to have the facilities to do it. So I drove around town, and there was a hotel every 3 blocks I drove, and I found out they host the Ironman in October, which is why the Nationals isn't going to be in October there. They had 9,000 people come in for the Ironman, and they had plenty of hotels for that, and convention center for that. So I was pretty much
that pretty much
I was very confident that we'd have no problem getting 450, 500 shooters in. So once I saw the facility, saw how the match was run, and saw the proximity of all the ranges all being right there in a dedicated facility just for action pistol, USPSA pistol, that was what sold me. Plus, I flew into Vegas and I drove an hour and 40 minutes and I was in St. George.
Mm-hmm.
So
when we were discussing how do you get there from here,
right?
Because we had the Area 1 was in Parma, Idaho, and then they said, well, we're moving it down. Sort of made it sound like they're moving it right down the street, but it was monumentally more difficult to get there than Boise. But then somebody said, well, fly into Vegas and then just drive up the street. And that makes it seem a lot more reasonable, because you can fly into Vegas for cheap from anywhere. So that's not a bad
flying
way
to Vegas, or the only other way is to fly. You can fly Delta to Salt Lake, and they have a connection that goes straight to St. George. But that's
But
pretty.
then you don't get to go to Vegas.
Right. Right. You go to Vegas for a couple nights and then drive up to St. George, shoot a match, drive back.
I can even maybe talk my wife into doing that. So that's
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of changes. The Steel Challenge. This was our first year in Florida. It was a different time of year. The match itself was extremely successful. The turnout wasn't as good. Kind of disappointing for me. However, we didn't lose money on it, so that was to me, that's a success. I think that's the first time it's ever happened.
Was the attendance down because there was mostly more local shooters in the California location?
Not really.
That didn't travel to this one? Or?
There weren't as many Florida shooters there as you would think. There was several reasons. Obviously, they've been in Piru for 30 years. So anytime you move it, you could literally move it to 2 hours down the street. It's not going to have the same turnout. It's not this. It's going to change.
Yeah.
But moving it literally on the other side of the country, certainly
200 miles away.
Right, certainly affected things. But the dates weren't great. It was right in the middle of Halloween. I have 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. So, needless to say, I caught a lot of flack for that one, having to leave 3 days before Halloween and stay a week after Halloween. Got some good video, but it's not the same. So that had a little bit to do with it. The time of year had something to do with it. So this year, for 2013, I've decided to take a bit of a risk, and it's going to catch a lot of heat. Literally and figuratively, but I decided to move the Steel Challenge, same place. We're in Frostproof, Florida, for 5 years, but I moved it the weekend of July. The weekend of July 24th to the 28th. So it's going to be hot. I know that, but there's a match that I run the weekend before that called the Pro-Am that gets 400 shooters. So I'm going to have 400 shooters there, literally a day away from the World Speed Shooting Championship.
And logistically, that makes sense.
Right. So on paper, it makes sense to me, and a lot of people who shoot the Pro-Am...
A lot of people appreciate not having to travel twice.
Right. Yeah. So you can get 2 big matches, actually technically 5 big matches, because you can shoot open limited on the Pro-Am, and then you can shoot rimfire, limited open at the Steel Challenge. So you can shoot 5 matches in 1 week. So I think that'll encourage a few more people to stay in Florida for a day or two, and then come in and start practicing and getting ready for the Steel Challenge.
At the club level, how is Steel Challenge doing?
We're getting new affiliations.
Because we've got our first local club that's going to start shooting matches in December.
January, I think.
Okay, well, but anyway, so we've got all the equipment. They're going to affiliate, and is that
on paper? It looks good for clubs. And as a club, if I were an established club, I'm touching my mic. If I were an established club, for me, I'm looking at the numbers. Okay, I can go talk to, I can get my affiliation, and I can go spend $5,000 on targets. I can set up 8 stages for Steel Challenge, or 6 or 7 or whatever the case may be, and I can run 6 or 8 months worth of matches. And if I'm successful, if I can use the USPSA website and get people to show up for the match, and if you're already a successful club, it kind of helps. I can pay for that steel in 6 to 8 months. And at that point, there's no paper to buy, there's no pasters to buy, there's no score sheets, unless you can print a score sheet off your computer.
Right.
The only thing you really buy is white paint. So from a logistics standpoint, I think it's a no-brainer. But from an administrative standpoint, we're not going in the direction I would like to see us go. I can honestly say that. I would like to see a very drawn out and very specific plan to show clubs why they should affiliate. Why should they pay USPSA an affiliation fee?
Right.
Why should you be a member? Because who's to say you can't hold a match, move the targets around, and call it the Steel Shootout?
Well, that's what we had locally. They called it Fun Steel.
Right.
We had all the equipment, just not affiliated, not running the official courses of fire.
So my intention is to give the clubs a reason to affiliate. There's got to be something there to show them that, if we affiliate, we're going to get, we're going to get a discount on steel from a certain target company, or for every $1 we spend on club dues or mission counts or whatever, we're going to get a certain percentage back. There's all kinds of ideas that I have.
Right.
First thing is the classification system.
Shooters
really want to know where they stand, but not necessarily at an overall standpoint. They want to know that's kind of what jumpstart USPSA's membership was, a classification system. And there's no reason why we can't have one in Steel Challenge. It's the easiest sport to shoot as far as new shooters go.
Sure.
It's the most appealing for new shooters. It's the easiest match to run. It takes almost no effort to run a match. I mean, the Steel Challenge this year was like a cakewalk for me. It was the easiest thing I'd ever done. Once the steel was set up, it was just, now what do we do?
Right.
Just start crunching numbers.
Right. So it's so uncomplicated that there's a lot of opportunities for us to put clubs in a position where they have to affiliate. It makes no sense not to, but I don't think we're there yet. Although, I understand there's an issue. I see the problem. The board sees the problem. We're trying to move in the direction to fix it. And I think the first step of that is a classification system. And from what I've been told, we're very, very close. So,
I'd agree. From a individual shooter perspective, what's my incentive to join Steel Challenge? And I can't go shoot the national without being a member, but what does that do for me locally? And then for me, the answer is I want a classification system. That's my incentive to go shoot, is to measure my performance against all the top shooters.
Right.
So that's kind of what drives me to shoot and compete, is just to be able to measure my own performance and progress. So,
right.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and I am extremely confident that a classification system will be in place by the next Steel Challenge. It may not be active because we'll still have to have people shoot through. It depends on what classification system is accepted.
We got a few different schemes.
Well, there's one that's some people within USPSA have been working on for quite some time. They're supposed to be really close to being finished with it. I've come up with something on my own that's a bit more simplified. Obviously, the risk there is obvious. I don't want to undermine the work they've done. I would like to see it go to the membership to see what they would like to see done. I'm trying to think of a way. For me, a classification system has to be a very simplified system in that any club can run a match, even if it's a 4-stage or 5-stage steel challenge match, and the second you shoot it, you're classified. Much like IDPA, they have a classification stage. As soon as you shoot it, you're classified. You know what your classification is. It should be no different with steel challenge. You shoot 5 stages, or 4 stages, or whatever the case is. You should be able to walk out of that match with a classification.
Kind of similar to USPSA, where you have a minimum of 4 classifiers and you've got a classification. Right. And for your initial classification. For
a minimum of 4 stages, you can get classified.
Right.
And and that means you could shoot 3 or 4 club matches in a quarter, or 4 or 5 club matches in a quarter, and you just get your best score. And so your best run is your classification.
Just compare my best run on Smoke and Hope to BJ Norris or whoever's the top Smoke and Hope record holder right now. Right.
I mean that's an idea. There's obviously it's something we're going to have to get straightened out. I have no doubt that we all have the same goal in mind. To give the shooters, the club level shooters, and the actual affiliated clubs, an actual classification system that's easy to use, easy to report, and easy for us to assign a classification to.
Right.
It's got to happen. But Steel Challenge, another great thing about it is it's so simple that it actually opens up a lot of doors for other avenues. Like I'm actually trying to pursue Rimfire 22 Rimfire Open Steel Challenge as an Olympic sport. I would really like to see it, as a demonstration sport in the next Olympic Games. And I'm actually moving towards that. I'm taking steps in that direction. I've got some really good contacts that we'll see what happens. That would be huge. But it only makes sense. The guns. They're 22s, so they're not defensive in nature. They're open class, so every gun's going to have an optic on it. So typically, here's how the Olympics and shooting sports in the Olympics work. The less practical the equipment is, the more user-friendly it is for television. The less they can walk in that goes, well, that's absolutely a piece of technical equipment. It can only be used for this sport. Well, that's the 22. That's Rimfire Open, because those guns are only used for one thing. Not a lot of people walk around with a compensated 22 with an optic on it that's built to go that kind of speed.
Reason,
So I think that's got definitely a good place to go. Obviously, we'd have to amend some of the stages, take some of the movement out, make it less, scary, less practical, and more just standing in a box and shooting. But I think it's got a lot of potential. Steel Challenge is the most underdeveloped and greatest potential resource we have as USPSA. It's just not being fostered right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's easy to get people involved. There's mostly no movement involved, so it's easy on that perspective.
Taping involved.
There's no taping involved.
That's one of the things that
it's rain friendly.
You notice the weather. We shoot in this kind of weather like 8 or 9 months out of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, not having plastic bags on the targets, not taping, not having to pick my brass out of a mud puddle. Yeah. Right. Steel Challenge is like the perfect.
Put a tarp next to the box. Put a big old blue tarp next to the box. All your brass falls on the tarp.
If we're shooting 22, which makes it cheap, and then you don't have to worry about picking brass, and it's win-win-win.
Yeah. 22 is a. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I'm definitely going to do everything I can to realize it.
Now, is there an official 22 rifle division? Because
there's not.
Because I gotta tell you, I enjoy that.
Yeah, there's not an official division. However, the rules I just went through the rules on the flight over here in the time that I had between the screaming kid next to me and the other person on my right.
But your seat in the back.
Right. Yeah. But I actually went over the new Steel Challenge rule books, and we actually put a provision in there for long gun, 22 rifle, and even Wildcat divisions. Some clubs are actually running Steel Challenge with backup guns like carry guns. Some of them have a 5-shot revolver division they like to run. So, I want to make sure that it's.
So you kind of call it a wildcat, like a wild card, just for your local club.
Yeah, if you want to do something,
whatever you want to make it.
Right, you can put any division in there you want. Short of suppressed, obviously, because that's kind of time.
Hard to pick up the timer. Yeah.
But it's for the club levels. I definitely wanted to make it easy to administer different kind of divisions. Now for the nationals or the world championship, I'm actually going the opposite direction. I'm trying to streamline it and make it more relevant and parallel to the divisions we already have. You know, that, in my opinion, you know, I know the reasons behind it back in the day when they initiated IDPA divisions and Steel Challenge. They're trying to pull from that large crowd of IDPA shooters. It's been a failure. I mean,
just not enough people are shooting it.
Yeah, maybe if we're lucky, we get 8 or 9.
Well, how different is it from single stack and
it's
production?
Not. That's the thing. And we got single stack division, which means you could technically shoot a 9mm single stack, which is the same as an ESP gun, or you can take your CDP gun and shoot it in single stack.
Right.
You can take your ESP or your SSP and shoot production.
Right.
So
there's also a cowboy division, right?
There may
in the rule book, right?
In the old rule book.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
same thing though. Just
it's
not,
the same
not,
thing.
Not
you know, they've demonstrated. We've seen by the numbers coming in that cowboy action, they're just not interested. I mean, we've had that division out there since I started shooting, or since I started shooting Steel Challenge, and never had more than 2 people, 3 people in a division. So it's almost like we're grasping at straws that we don't have to be. You know,
right.
I'm looking for sheer numbers. I would love to get. I want to get people involved in the sport, but I don't feel like I should have to pull from other shooting sports to do that. Steel Challenge in and of itself holds enough credibility, and it's simple enough to where you can get new shooters in. You don't have to try to pull from all the other shooting sports to make it successful. I think it can stand on its own 2 feet, and that's why I'm trying to parallel it with our divisions, because they're simple. You know, it's very simplified. The only exception is the addition of IPSC production, because you know, you think about it, if you're, because we're really trying to make Steel Challenge Shooting Association a world body, especially if we go to the Olympic Committee with it. But overseas, if I'm shooting a production overseas and I'm using a race holster and I have a stock trigger, and according to the rules, stock trigger, and
stock
everything is set up for
apparently.
stock. Well, yeah,
I mean
everything. But let's say I'm doing it legal and everything I have on my gun is completely bone stock, and I'm running a race holster. Well, now to shoot Steel Challenge production, now I've got to get a different holster, and now I can do all this work to my gun. So coming up with IPSC production kind of made it more appealing to the overseas crowd, because there's not a lot of affiliated overseas clubs. So now we give them the opportunity to just take their standard production gear that they're using in an IPSC match and shoot it in Steel Challenge. So that was the only addition that I made. I took away some of the other divisions, but added that one for the inevitability. What's the word I'm looking for? Inevitability.
That's the one.
The inevitability of actually hosting a true world event where we're a world body, and having clubs in Brazil and Argentina and Russia and everything. So,
as I recall, maybe early in your campaign, you were in favor of getting rid of the metric target. What's your position on that now?
That's a good question.
Am I mischaracterizing?
No, not really.
Okay.
I went on record as saying that I felt that for us to get more media attention and for us to be a true mainstream sport, we should get rid of the targets with heads on them. I said that, and I didn't say I never denied it. I still think that. I still truly think that, and everyone said, first, as soon as I said that, everyone said, Phil's getting rid of the targets with heads on them.
Right.
And I probably lost 1,000 votes because people thought I was getting rid of the targets with heads.
Right.
And that's not really what I said. I was simply saying, if we really want to truly be taken seriously as a sport, and because as soon as you start shooting targets with heads on them, you can forget any mainstream media coverage. None. I mean, you're going to get Shooting USA. You know, you'll get the Shooting Gallery if they're still around. You might get you might get other smaller shows, but you're not going to get mainstream coverage.
Will you get mainstream coverage without the head, though?
I think. Well, that's another thing. I think. I think you would have a better
bullet, or what the bullet that's hitting.
I think you would have a better chance. Would it happen? Probably not, because no matter how you slice it, you're still running around with a pistol, shooting through doors and windows and shooting on the move and that kind of thing. So you're still getting that defensive, tactical, practical, combat-oriented kind of look. Yeah. But you're not shooting at little mini poppers with heads on them that look like children. Because
there was a local news coverage of a USPSA event in the aftermath of a shooting, and it was one of these "Are we training people to be killers?" kind of a deal. They used classic targets, and still the news report said humanoid targets.
All right.
And I'm just like going, any target that's not round.
And I made it very clear that no matter what target, if we were shooting circles like Three Gun Nation, we're shooting circles with the little visual circle things. It doesn't matter. Right. There are certain groups out there who are always going to target us. No matter what we shoot at, we could shoot at animal.
That's the worst
Deer
part.
and bunnies and fuzzy rabbits.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's a hunting competition. Well, yeah, no, it's not. You're carrying pistols. You're drawing out of the holster. You're doing things. You're reloading. You're doing things that would be done in a defensive, tactical, practical environment. So,
Right.
in that respect, yeah, there's going to be certain groups that will never be on board. That's just the way it is. Like
Right.
ESPN, we'll say, because
Right.
they're anti-gun filming for the most part.
Yeah.
But it only builds their case. It only makes their case stronger when we're shooting at targets with heads on them.
Right.
Am I looking to get rid of the targets with heads? No, of course not. I prefer to shoot at the targets with the upper AB zone. But I'll still stand by the fact that I think from an outsider looking in, especially someone in the media realm that's looking to get a standard generic, non-threatening kind of shooting sport in their programming, I still think it would probably look better with us not shooting those targets.
Yeah.
It may be right or wrong or
They
different.
have the option of running it that way, of course.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean,
the way it is right
if
now.
a club wants to run targets with the upper AB zone, then they can. If they don't, they don't. I mean, it's not something I was looking to change policy on. And when I stopped to think about it, I thought, it doesn't matter what we shoot at. They're always going to be. There's certain groups that are always going to see us as
The fact that there's guns involved, people are
Right.
certain
It
people
doesn't
are just
matter.
going to be.
And everybody
Not
hates the classic target anyway. So.
Well,
I think that,
Well, and we're until recently, one of our guys moved away, but he set up a match. He set up a stage every match, and guaranteed his stages always had the classic target, just to mix it up. I think. I don't think he had any,
right.
anything
wasn't
against
malicious.
anything against the metric. It was just that was his way to amp up the challenge and change things up a bit. It was,
I think it's.
and that's kind of what it's for in
Yeah,
my mind.
it's. I've shot a lot of international matches before, and
Sure.
and you're right. I mean, it's just something different. It's just a way to change things up, to make things more challenging because they're harder targets to shoot.
Yep.
But as far as the political correctness of them, I mean, either one is not. No one could argue that one is less politically correct than the other because let's face it, one doesn't look like a person, the other kind of does. But is it going to be a situation where we're going to gain or lose membership because of one or the other? I don't think so, and that's why I haven't pushed it. I mean, like I said, we're still running around with pistols and we're still looking scary with guns. So, so it's not nothing
feeling
changes.
scary.
That's why
looking
skill
scary.
challenge is another good. And we're shooting
Right.
shapes, targets, squares. We're still drawing the gun.
Well,
but-
reactive targets, I think, are always a better media
Right,
thing because
right.
you can tell if they've hit it or
Yeah,
not.
the ring.
USPSA target, you don't know till after everybody's done
Right.
who's won,
Right.
kind of a thing. So.
That's true. All right, so we just want to thank Phil for coming out here to the party and having a little talk with us here on camera. So it was fun. Good to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming. Oh, yeah, it was great. It's great. We're always going to put somebody in this chair every Christmas, put them on the spot. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you in 2013.
So, what's the Facebook page, Rick?
Oh, Facebook page is
Or you could give the email.
Facebook something. Let's try powerfactorshow@gmail.com for email.
Right, and see our website at powerfactorshow.com or facebook.com/powerfactorshow. And head on over to uspsa.org.
Join up.